What's up, everyone? So for today's video, I'm going to talk about red pill versus feminism. I'm not going to go too in detail about the differences, but I'm going to talk about it briefly. So feminism, people say that it's all about women empowerment and being equal to a man. Well, red pill is kind of like the opposite of that to a certain extent, as in they were kind of made in response to this movement, and they're all about empowering men to be real men, quote unquote, to remove all types of weaknesses, emotional and all of that stuff, and to just dominate over women and just be like, the ones who basically take charge and like control them in a way. And they're stoic, they don't have no emotions, and like they run things. But the issue is that they are both two extremes of the issue. Feminism tries to make women become men, and the red pill movement tries to make men lose all sense of emotionality, gentleness, kindness, and just be stoic. And they're both in response to one extreme. So I wanted to read a bit from this book right here, Reclaim Your Heart, by Yasmin Mogahed. It's a very interesting book. You guys can see this book right here. It's a very interesting book. There's a chapter in it called The Empowerment of Women, and it says that as a result, the Western feminist was forced to find her value in relation to a man, and in doing so, she has accepted a faulty assumption. She has accepted that man is the standard, and thus women can never be full human beings until she becomes just like a man, which is the standard. When a man cuts her hair short, she wanted to cut her hair short. When a man joined the army, she wanted to join the army. She wanted these things for no other reason than being the standard, which was the man. But the thing is, they didn't recognize what God dignifies both men and women with their distinctiveness and not their sameness. When we accept man as a standard, suddenly anything uniquely feminine becomes inferior. Being sensitive is an insult. Being a full-time mother, a degradation. In the battle between stoic rationality, considered masculine, and selfless compassion, considered feminine, and the rationality remained supreme. So this is in page 141. So as you can understand from that page, it's basically saying that what feminism did was not empower women to be equal or anything, but if anything, to become just like a man, equally like a man. But we know that that doesn't really make much sense, and it doesn't really benefit them, because if anything, it gives them more burdens to be like a woman in certain senses, but also like a man and take charge and have responsibilities that will just be too much for them. And there's a reason why these roles are given, so that everybody has their share that they can actually fulfill. And then in the following page, 142, she says, given our privilege as women, we only degrade ourselves by trying to be something we are not. As women, we will never reach true liberation until we stop trying to mimic men and value the beauty in our own God-given distinctiveness. So I think that's a very good point, because what she's saying is, like, as women, they should know that being like a man does not increase your value, but if anything, it degrades you. Why does it degrade you? I will talk to you about that, because she talked about this in page 149, where she said, we were mothers, and yet we were told that it was women's liberation to abandon the raising of another human being in order to work on a machine. So this is on page 148. We accepted that working in a factory was superior to raising the foundation of society just because a man did it. Then after working, we were expected to be superhuman, the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect homemaker, and have the perfect career. And while there is nothing wrong by definition with a woman having a career, we soon came to realize what we had sacrificed by blindly mimicking men. We watched as our children became strangers soon recognized the privilege we'd given up. If given a choice between stoic justice and compassion, I choose compassion. And if given a choice between the worldly leadership and heaven at my feet, I choose heaven. So this was a very nice excerpt from the book, but it just helps to reinforce the argument that feminism is not really benefiting women as they think. If anything, it's causing them to lose all sense of femininity and at a certain age, they start to regret these choices. And when you look at the red pill movement and being stoic, it removes all types of emotion and feelings, and all you're really doing in this life is just acting upon your desires and fulfilling them in ways to just fill the need of doing that. And when you do such things, you lose a part of your humanity, because humanity is also about your emotions, your intellect. And a real man is not a man who does not feel emotions. A man uses his emotional intelligence and rationality in order to know when to be putting certain emotions out, when to refrain from showing certain emotions, and all of that. And if you look at the best of men, they were gentle, they were kind, they were respectful, but they were also with authority, and they knew when to use emotions, when to be supportive, and also when to take charge. It's not all about just, I'm a man and I do whatever I want and you're my slave and you do as I say. And that's kind of what the red pill movement is trying to show, because it's in retaliation to the feminist movement. Like, no, you will be a woman, but you're not just going to be a woman, you're just going to be an obedient slave. And that's not the best way to deal with both cases. The best thing is to always stay in the middle, because the middle ground is the best place. Everybody has a role that makes sense for their ability. As soon as a woman is made to become like a man, she can no longer take care of a household, she can no longer be there for her kids present, and also take care of the bills and stuff. It's a lot of stress for one person to deal with all of that. So if you now enforce that to being the norm, not only is the family household going to be broken because there's no people really raising the kids, it's going to be society, it's going to be the daycares, the media that's raising your children, but also society as a whole becomes more broken because the homes will be broken. There's no two-parent households because she has kids with how many different men. All right. And then it's easier to break down the whole of society and to indoctrinate people with certain ideologies to become more slaves to society. But when you have a proper household with two working parents, that's when you can instill the values that you want and protect these children from all these other ideologies that can corrupt their minds. And then when you come to the red pill movement, it degrades men because it doesn't let them have emotional feelings and thoughts. And if anything, that creates more hostility and a lot of arrogance, egotistical behaviors, but also anger and rage. Because when somebody just hides their emotions and just lets it consume them, what often happens is that they react negatively and can go kind of rash and do crazy stuff. Even though stoicism has its positives, just like feminism has its positives, both are an extreme to an end of the spectrum. They're both polar opposites on the poles, but they are not the solution to the issues that society is having. And if anything, they're perpetuating even more problems because of the extremes that they bring. If anything, they remove certain parts of goodness that both genders have, and when they both try to become like each other, they just become problematic. With feminism making men more feminine or to be just like women, if anything, degrades a woman's quality of life, and to make a man like an animal or someone who has no emotions also degrades to his own life, because he needs that love and affection and support. And vulnerability is not something that's a weakness, but in a lot of cases, it's actually a strength. But we just need to know when to be vulnerable, when to show emotions, and not just be overtly emotional to every single thing that comes around in our lives. So, my final thoughts on red pill versus feminism: they're both extremes, and I would not choose either or, even though one will be more liked by certain people than the other. It's always best to be in the middle, and it's a very complicated topic. I obviously didn't cover enough to speak properly about both subjects, but all I know is that they both have their faults that are very major, and nobody should follow something that has major flaws. And that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching my video. You should definitely look into reading this book, and have a great day, night, and evening.